Hey, it's Zennial Gamer, and I've been trying to record this video for 5 minutes, and Brownie seems to not want to cooperate with that objective here. Brownie, say hi to the camera. Hi! Okay, we're going to try and record this video again now. Hey, it's Zennial Gamer, and I have now bribed Brownie with a rawhide, and we're ready to begin today's video. So today we're going to be looking at a Giants B10 team that builds off of the Dragon B10 team that we did in the last video. And it's based off the same Julie concept that Seiishizo came up with, but using those lower runes if you can't get fully out to a G3 super powerful offensive rune set. So I'm going to be doing a little bit in the optimizer to show you how I got to this team, but we won't duplicate what we did in the last video. If you want to see how I got Julie's rune set, for example, I'll put a link to the Dragons B10 video down below. But I'm going to do one more run here, explain how this team works, and then I'll explain the thought process on how I got to it, and we'll look at the runes. So Julie does her 1,000 shots, which hopefully you know already. The computer AI will do that every time if she's at 100% health. And by doing her 1,000 shots, it brings the wave low enough that it manipulates the Lucien AI to amp. It's the same thing as forcing Shayna to do her Chakram Crush in Dragon's B10, except now that we're in Giant, Shayna wouldn't be as effective. So we're going to trick Lucien or manipulate Lucien into using his amputation magic instead. Then we're using Sophia for the defense break. She's probably the most reliable defense break option that we have for Giants B10 because her third skill, she'll go with it every time if she's at full health, and it has 5 hits with each one having the opportunity to defense break. After Sophia defense breaks, this is where I was doing a lot of the experimenting. I tried double Lin, 2 Lins. I tried Naomi. Even though I didn't expect much, I tried things like Sigmarus and Teshar. And what I came up with is that Crow is going to be the most reliable option to go forth because you can't really manipulate, or at least I couldn't find a way to manipulate the AI of that 4th spot. I don't have a Luna, the Dark Pierrot. So of the monsters I had, I couldn't find any of them that I could consistently manipulate that AI. But what Crow offers that a lot of the others don't is that all 3 of his skills bring something to the table. So if you were to derp and go full on skill 1, it gives you a backup defense break. And if the boss is already defense broken, as it should be with Sophia, then it's going to do a pretty decent amount of damage even on his skill 1. If he goes with his skill 2, the team up, whether he pulls Lucien or Sophia or Julie or any monster on this team with him, it's actually still going to do a pretty good chunk of damage. I think my Crow is doing like 23k damage on his own. If he pulls the Lin with him, that's another 23k, so it's almost 50k, it's a big hit. Even if he pulls the Lucien, it's 46k, and so no matter what, it's going to be pretty effective in terms of the total damage you're doing to the boss. And then for the final spot, I went with Lin. Talia would do more damage acting in that 5th position because of her bonus when the boss is below half health. But without using Sabrina for that passive to boost Talia's damage and for another twin to go with her, the Lin winds up doing more damage overall. So you've seen a bunch of runs in the background, and what you hopefully have noticed is that every one of them has been below 30 seconds. Now my fastest team for Giants B10 was using Lucien, Galleon, Crow, and 2 Lins. I also had a version of it that used Naomi instead of Crow. The Crow team had a top speed of about 20 seconds. The Naomi team had a top speed of about 21 seconds. This team that we're running right now with the Julie and Sophia will not get there. The fastest I've seen so far is about 24 seconds. I've probably run almost 100 runs throughout various testing. So 24 seconds seems to be the best it's going to do. However, when you're running Galleon, you only have one opportunity to defense break, and that's assuming he doesn't use skill 2. You also have to use a lot more violent runes to maximize those defense break chances, and what that means is you have a lot of opportunities for bad runs. So in any comp I use with Galleon, 1 out of every 5 or 1 out of every 10 runs would go over 40 seconds, sometimes even over 50 seconds. The most stable version of that comp I found was with Naomi. And even that Naomi one was probably averaging about 32, 33 seconds. Yeah, it could pop out a 21-second run here and there, but the average was not that consistent. I don't have it set up to show it on the screen, but I recorded 30 runs in a spreadsheet, and the average was 27.2 seconds over those 30 runs. Now, I made a little bit of tweaking. I did a little bit more fine-tuning to the runes of the monsters, and the eyeball test tells me we're still in the same range. It might be closer to 26.5 seconds now, but that's probably what we're looking at, is a 27-second run, but a really consistent 27 seconds. You're going to go 24 to 30 seconds, 19 times out of 20. If Sophia misses a defense break on the mid-boss or on the final boss, you might pop out. I think the slowest run I've seen was 37 seconds. And even then, that's still a significant upgrade over pretty much anything that uses Galleon. So we're going to take a look at the runes now. We'll start with Julie because she acts first. And you'll notice if you saw the Dragon's B10 video, she's using the exact same runes. I did not make any changes to her. And the reason for that is because I couldn't really put together a better set. I did look in the optimizer, and I was not able to put together a 100 crit rate set, even if I sacrificed some accuracy, which the accuracy is really helpful in the Dragons team. But even if I sacrificed the accuracy, I couldn't get to 100% crit rate and still output enough damage to manipulate the Lucien and Shayna AIs. So I stayed with the 85% crit rate, and what I found is that it didn't really matter. Lucien is going to do so much damage with his amputation magic that the only thing we actually have to do is force him to use it. And at the build that she's at right now, she does force him to use it every time. So since this was around the minimum that we needed for the Dragon's B10 as well, we just left that build alone. So we're going to go with Lucien second. Now, in the first runs that I did with this, my Lucien was actually a little bit weaker than this. He was 88% crit rate, but he was under 200 crit damage with about the same attack. And I haven't really noticed any significant differences since I boosted his damage. This is actually my second Lucien. My primary Lucien's a little bit faster and didn't speed tune with Julie. And so from testing the two things, what I've noticed is the damage requirement on Lucien is just not that high. He's going to clear those waves pretty much no matter what. And so when you get to the boss, what we're talking about is a difference of maybe 1,000 damage from, or even 2,000 or 3,000 damage from a really well-stacked, well-built Lucien to like something that's using, I won't call them leftover runes, but using much lower quality runes. And so what I have here is probably overkill for what you need. In fact, if you have the ability to slap on a fight set at the exchange of some crit damage or some attack, I would probably do that because it's going to benefit your Crow and your Julie, who are probably a little bit more important. Now going third is Sophia. And the two big keys with Sophia, you're going to want to try and hit 85 crit rate and 85 accuracy. But I will tell you that it doesn't matter what set she's using. You see, I've got her on Focus Shield Blade. Anytime I can use focus runes, it's a win. There's nowhere else I can use them, right? So I ran Sophia through like 5 or 6 different builds while I was testing. I had her on Fatal, I had her on Rage, I tried her on low damage, high damage. The damage Sophia does actually does make a difference on the mid-boss mainly. If you can get the mid-boss low enough, then it increases the odds of Crow using his Scar. But more importantly, if we can get the mid-boss below 30% by the time Crow has gone, then it guarantees that Lyn is going to use Phantom Crush, which is her S3. So if Sophia is able to do that extra damage, it kind of encourages Crow to use his bigger damage attack. Or it offsets the fact that maybe Crow goes with Team Up on skill 2. But if your Sophia and Crow combined can get the boss below 70%, then you're going to have faster runs overall because Lyn is going to go with skill 3. So I've run Sophia on a few different builds. The strongest offensive build I had her on was 75% accuracy. And I did notice a difference between 75 and 85%. Because the bosses in Giants B10 have max resistance, over max actually, even though she's going 5 times, they did resist me. I think they resisted me twice in about 50 runs, resisted the defense break. And that adds nearly 10 seconds to the run when they get that resist. So I'd strongly recommend that you look for 85 crit rate because it gives you consistent damage, and 85 accuracy on Sophia. If you have to sacrifice other stats, that's fine. Or if you're able to do like I did and just use 3 different 2 sets or even use some broken runes, so you're not giving up your greatest runes, you're just hitting those target minimums, 85 and 85, and then you get as much crit damage and attack as you're able to afterwards. You'll also notice that she's not tanky. I didn't even look at HP. I didn't even look at defense. The way this team runs, the boss should not get his AoE attack off. Hey guys, a little post-recording note that I'm going to inject in here. After about 1,000 runs with this team, I have found that it will fail once every couple of hours, so like once every 7,500 runs or something. When it fails, it's basically because you missed the defense break on the boss and then both Crow and Lyn derped. And you'll notice that I've got like plus 200 defense, plus 4,000 HP on each of these monsters. I kind of made it a point to use my lowest efficiency available runes to set up this team. That was the whole point, was to just use leftover runes. So if it matters to you, if you're going to fail once every couple of hours, then you will want to add a little bit of HP and defense, more so the HP even, just to make sure that you never wipe. One other option, which I wish I could test, but I don't have her right now, is to run a second Sophia instead of Crow. The second Sophia would do about 25,000 damage consistently to the final boss, and it gives you 10 chances at a defense break instead of 5 before you get to your Lyn. I do believe the second Sophia would probably be a faster version of this team, and I'm sure it would be a more consistent version of this team even on leftover runes. So if anybody has a second Sophia, wants to try it out, and leave something down in the comments below, that would be awesome. Otherwise, back to the pre-recorded video. Okay, so next up is going to be Crow. One thing to note here, when I was testing Naomi, this became really evident. As you're doing your speed tuning, you need to keep in mind, for example, that Sophia has 103 base speed and Crow has 108 base speed. And your speed tower is going to multiply that base speed. So if your Sophia and your Crow are the same speed, Crow will actually be faster because of that 15% with your speed tower. So your Crow must be at least one speed lower than Sophia, is the bottom line there. If you were using Naomi, when I did the Naomi test, Naomi actually has to be 2 speed lower. And so I had a little speed tuning issue there. Anyway, I'm using the same Crow that I built for... actually, I built a Crow for Dark Rift, and then I wound up nerfing it a little bit as I was shifting some other runes around. So you'll see that the attack power on my Crow is not super crazy. The crit damage is not super crazy. He does have fight runes, which is a big plus. It helps my Julie. But ultimately, he's in a set that I believe most people would be able to make at mid-game without too much difficulty. Maybe without the fight runes, but certainly to hit less than plus 1,500 attack and 200 crit damage with 85 crit rate. If I could change one thing on this Crow set, it would be to increase the accuracy so that I would get the brand more often, because when I hit the brand on the final boss, I'm much more likely to pop out those 24-second runs. I don't really have the runes to do it and still maintain these damage levels, and I'm not really comfortable lowering his damage at this point. But if you could do the same level of damage and get to like 50% accuracy or more, I think you'd find that your team is running faster than mine. And then we're going to close out with Lyn. I do strongly recommend you try to get to 100% crit rate on Lyn, but if you can't, not the end of the world. It just means that every now and then you'll have to see an extra couple of hits pop out if she misses a crit. So let's say she winds up at 80% crit rate. That means one run in 5, you might have to see your Lucien and maybe your Julie, or rather your Julie and maybe your Lucien go. So you might see an extra 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds on that one run out of 5 where she misses the crit. But so this is mine. You'll see that the crit damage is really low. For a Lyn, you would love to see her crit damage at 220 to 250. But I did put mine on violent runes as a little bit of dirt protection. It's the same Lyn I'm using in the Dragon's B10 team, and through my testing I found that violent was more important on that team. I did carry over 1 fight set as well, so I have 2 fight sets only on this total team, on this Giants B10 team. Okay, so we've got Sophia loaded in the rune optimizer. I've already loaded her. You'll notice that I have it checked to use only runes from inventory because Again, I wanted to just try and do this on leftover runes and not have to move around a whole bunch of monsters. There's only a few hours left in FRR. And from my earlier testing, I didn't notice any huge differences as long as I hit that 85 crit rate, 85 accuracy target. I did put in 1 focus set. The reason I did this, it's not because I was determined to use a focus set as much as I like doing so. It's because when I had run the optimizer earlier, if you don't give it some guidance, if you leave all 3 of these blank, then it gets overwhelmed, for lack of a better term, and it just wasn't spitting out any comps. It needed some guidance. So I ran it on Fatal and Rage first, but I couldn't hit the accuracy targets with those two. I tried it with Fight as well, but I didn't have any Fight runes left. So I just plugged in Focus, and that forced it to give me some outputs, forced it to give me some results. For slot 4, we want it to be crit damage. The slot 2 is pretty much going to be attack, but I wanted to give it the option for anything. I didn't really care. As long as I got to those, again, 85 accuracy and crit rate, I didn't care what the build was, because then I could sift through the bottom and find whatever the strongest build was from there. So I left it at crit damage, but if you wanted your search results to come back a little bit faster, you could have set it for attack and crit damage. You could also do something like attack and speed for the slot 2. Attack and accuracy for the slot 6. I knew I didn't have any accuracy runes that were going to fit this set, so I didn't need to plug that in. As we come down here, which again, 85 accuracy and crit rate, I've got my speed tuning ranges in here, so if you're not familiar with it, 156 was the lowest build I would accept, and then this over here is 158 is the highest build I would accept. On my focus side over here, because I didn't give it a lot of input up here in the sets area, I kept my search depth a little bit lower so that it didn't take an hour to bring back results. And then I put a little bit of an extra emphasis on accuracy. Now, when I started the initial search, you'll see, and I forced it to pop up this error message, my minimum crit rate was 75 and my minimum accuracy was 75. And I do that because I like to see more of the builds. Let's say that there was this perfect build that was 84 accuracy. If I had the cutoff set at 85, I'd never see that perfect build. But maybe this 84 accuracy build was going to give me an extra 2,000 damage per hit. I would trade that one accuracy there. So whenever I'm in the optimizer, I always set my minimums for lower than I want. And then I use this apply button right here to slowly thin out the results that came up. So in this case, we only had 12 builds that came up because 75 crit rate and accuracy, and only using runes from inventory is already pretty specific. But from there, I just scrolled down my accuracy list, and I saw actually this build right here was 84 and 80. It was 84 accuracy and 80 crit rate. So I know that I'm getting closer to my minimums, and I come up here and I put 84 and 80, and I hit apply. And now it thins me down to 4 builds. And now it's much easier for me to look at the screen and see which build works best for me. At that point, I can sort it by damage. I also had the damage calculators set up on spinning slash with max skill ups. And our attack, if you remember this from the Dragons video, I've got 2 fight sets and a 33% attack lead. So that's 16 for the fight sets, 33 for the attack lead is 49, so we put our 49% attack. And then I'm clicking to assume a crit because I'm getting 15% additional crit for my attribute advantage, and I'm not going to take a build under 85 crit. So I hit apply, and as it pops out my builds again, it's going to show me 46, 43 for this top build. So what it's saying is I'm going to hit 5 times for 4,643 each time. If we look at the next one, it's 4,900, and then a 5,070, and then a 5,208. So as you can see, there's no crazy OP G3 runes that are being used. I managed to squeeze in a couple of focus sets. I've only got a couple of fight sets in here. And what I've been getting out of this team is just consistency. It's not going to break any speed records, but it's going to give me a very reliable sub 30 second run pretty much every time. 30.5, 30.7 is about the top run that I ever see unless I miss a defense break. And because I've got the 85% accuracy on Sophia, the backup defense break on Crow, I shouldn't be missing a defense break more than maybe 1 in 20 or even 1 in 30 or 40 runs. And so I'm finding this to be a much faster team on a consistency basis than the other teams I've run that could put out those 20-second runs, but would also put out 40, 50-second runs. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Comments are really appreciated. Remember, I'm just getting started out, And the more interaction you guys give, the more support and helps the channel get noticed. It's very much appreciated. And obviously, if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the video, please pop that subscribe button over on the left. It shows me that you enjoyed the video, but more importantly, it shows me that you found the information useful and hopefully it helped you in your gameplay. So here's the deal. You pop subscribe and I'll keep popping out content. Thanks, guys.